we see your magnificence. We see a divine being having a human experience. If you could see yourselves as we see you, there would be no discontent.
Sheila and Marcus Gillette, thank you for taking the time to join the show, Your Superior Self, The Art of Relationship, the new book that you guys have collaborated with. I love it. I got the advanced uncorrected proof, and I've made so many notes in this thing. It's not even funny. Highlighted. I mean, all these questions. Did you, Marcus, come up with these, or did you collaborate at all, Sheila, with this, or how did that work?
I did not. Most of these questions have come from clients.
Really?
And out of retreats that we've done on relationships. And so it was a culmination of questions that were coming from clients of ours.
Mm. Now, it's just interesting to me because your story, your stories are wonderful. Plus, how Theo came to be channeled through you, Sheila. But what I found the most interesting was this title. This book is titled "The Art of Relationship," and I think at one point, Marcus, you and Sheila were talking about dating, and Sheila was like, "I don't date." So you go from I don't date to writing a book about the art of a relationship. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, yeah,
there's a little story
there's a
behind that.
story to that.
Yeah, getting to that point, there's a little bit of a story, and you got to read about 7 or 8 pages to get to that line. But we talk in the first chapter about our multidimensional love story, and it was one of those things, Trey, where we went down to the Havasupai Indian Reservation on a 5-day camping trip for our first date, which I don't know that I would necessarily recommend that to anybody for, 5-day camping trip for your first date. And we literally got back out. We went to my home. We had a whole bunch of friends came over to meet Sheila and Theo. And then we were sitting outside and I just said, what are we going to do on our second date? And she said, I don't date. And I don't know where the words came from, but I just said, okay, well, let's just get married. And that was the end of that. And I mean, we never, from that moment, over 25 years ago, we've never looked back. That was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's such a great story. Let's talk about Theo, right? Like, Sheila, can you explain to the listeners what Theo is or who Theo is?
Theo is a group of 12 archangels collectively known by the name THEO, who have been speaking through me now for over 5 decades. And I came to doing this work after a near-death experience in 1969, which was an opening. And I had a miraculous healing in intensive care. And while I was there, I kept saying, hey, God, give me a job. I'll do anything. And as I did that, the room became extremely bright. And I looked at the end of my bed and there was Jesus. And I heard a distinct male voice say to me in my inner mind hearing, not my external hearing as we hear each other, but I heard a male voice say, remember, my child, you are loved. And at that point, I felt this warmth go down through my body internally. And my lungs were not functional. I had pulmonary embolus, which was basically blood clots that go into your lungs and break the blood vessels in your lungs, and they fill with fluid. So I couldn't breathe. I felt as if I was, an elephant was sitting on my chest. And as this warmth came through my body, I felt as if I could take a deep breath. And then I started getting better. And this was a time when my family was being prepared that I wouldn't live through the day. And I did, surprise, surprise. But 6 months after I was out of the hospital and could hold the energy, I had all kinds of psychic phenomena happening internally, externally. I could hear clairaudient messages, like I heard Jesus's voice that day. And then I tranced spontaneously, and I became a direct voice trance medium at that point, where the angels spoke directly through me, like Edgar Casey.
Mm.
And that was the only one I knew that did anything like this that could find out about. I didn't have a mentor except for the angels teaching me. And I had some phenomenal things happening to show me that this wasn't something I was making up. So I had external and internal things happening, like sitting in a chair, and if this spirit or the angels went up to speak to me, the chair would just start shaking. And I had my bed levitate one night. I had all kinds of things happening, and it was disconcerting. But it was also that inner knowing that we all have of no doubtedness. I knew that this had something to do with my request to God. Now, had I gotten a roster of job openings, I don't know that I would have picked direct voice trance medium as my job. I wouldn't have even known what it meant, for one thing. But at the time I opened, these kinds of spiritual communications or conversations like we're having today, right now, were not happening. They were happening in secret. People were meeting if they had an interest in metaphysics and parapsychology or psychic things. It was all spoken behind hidden hands, because people were afraid of it back then. And I've watched over the decades these waves of awakening that have happened because people are having their own personal experiences with spirit, with the angelic guidance that's around all of us. And so I continued to do the work because I made the commitment, give me a job. And I've been doing it ever since then, working with individuals and groups and assisting people in their awakening.
Does God have like a careerbuilder.com that you can go and check out some
I
slots?
don't know. I didn't get a roster. I was just given the job.
When did you come out publicly and start talking?
Oh gosh. Well, I came out to a few people, and it was interesting because Theo directed me to a couple of people in the community, which I contacted to let them know what was happening to me, and they happened to be interested in metaphysics and came and talked to me. But people just started finding out about me and calling and wanting sessions, readings, if you would. And then I had I don't know how this happened either, but I got an invitation to a conference that was being put on by the University of Florida in Miami called Psychics and Scientists.
Wow.
And my best friend went with me, and I met several scientists that were researching metaphysics and parapsychology. And there I met Dr. Evan Harris Walker, who was a physicist and a researcher, and he tested me for my psychic ability. And then after we met and we did the testing, which actually gave me the good housekeeping seal of approval, you're not crazy, you're psychic, which was really beneficial to me. Not that I felt crazy, but it would just kind of validated for myself what was happening. And then I worked with him on some projects. And then I put on a conference in 1983 in Colorado called Psychic Exploration. And I had 6 top scientific researchers of metaphysics come and speak. And then we did all kinds of experimenting with different modalities of psychic experiences, clairaudience. We even bent spoons and forks. And so that really brought me out into the public eye, because there were newspaper articles written about that conference that I put on. And then I wrote the book, my first book, The Fifth Dimension Channels to a New Reality, which Simon and Schuster published. And so that really brought me out more in the public and speaking on television and radio and promoting the book and speaking at conferences. So it's been an evolution of my coming out, if you would.
Mm.
And of course, like I said, there's been this evolution of awakening and people having their own personal experiences. And now, you can sit in a cafe or having a Starbucks somewhere or be somewhere, and the people at the table next to you will be having a conversation about psychic experiences or spiritual experiences. And we see on television and movies and all kinds of things that it's commonplace. I've even heard newscasters say, I must be channeling this. So it's just a common language now that wasn't when I began.
Mm-hmm. Well, Marcus, were you intimidated at all by marrying a channel? Like, did that? I mean, I'm sure that had nothing to do with what you marrying her, but I'm just saying, like, as a guy thinking in the back of my head, like that isn't something that you hear about on a, you know what I mean, like every day.
It was scary as hell, Trey. Yeah, I can't even begin to tell you, man. It was we. I'd had like you and like we were talking a little bit earlier. I'd had a lot of experiences before I met Sheila, and when I met her as a fan. We had a mutual friend who had given me her first book that she referenced, The Fifth Dimension, Channels to a New Reality. It was a great, like you were dog earing, rabbit earing our book, and we did the same. I did the same with Sheila's book, just notes and pages turned and everything. And so I was really a big fan of the work. I'd had a lot of several years of listening to channeled material and so forth. But just when I met her, I was just delighted to be with her. I was delighted to meet her. She was pretty. She had she was much. If you look at the back of the picture on the back of the book, The Fifth Dimension, it's more. She's softer and more radiant in person, and so I was struck by just how beautiful she was. And then we ended up having this wonderful experience here in the Paradise Valley at the Phoenician Resort. And we had a couple glasses of wine, and it was just one of those things you walk away from and you say, well, that was really cool. She's a real down to earth. You get to know Sheila Trey. She's just the most down. It's funny, people, see her as a channel for 12 archangels. And yes, that's amazing. There's a vibrational frequency that's really remarkable about her being able to do that. And yet when you meet her, she's so down to earth and so sweet. And so it immediately shifted into just being with somebody that you enjoyed being with, really. And I became a client actually and talked to Theo a few times. And then we both kind of knew something was going on, and then I invited her to go down on a vision quest with me. Into the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And that's where all the magic and some of the multidimensional experiences started happening. So by the time we got together, it was very comfortable and very natural. And I would even say it was a homecoming for us. It was a reunion because we'd been together.
Yeah. Past lives, right?
Many, many lifetimes. Yeah.
That was a pretty powerful story. Can you talk about that? Like, that was very powerful.
Well, I guess we could both share just briefly. our experience of it, because like we were talking earlier, you know, the old Sufi saying that only a fool believes another's word over their own experience. And so our whole thing, if you will, has really been about personal experience. You know, it becomes our knowing system. You don't have to even believe anymore. You just know because you've already experienced it. And so when we were sitting outside a sweat lodge, the second day we were in the Havasupai, which is a spectacularly beautiful place of people in the blue-green waters. We were outside of a sweat lodge, and there was two Native American children playing right outside. And in a moment, completely out of time, everything it was the same, but it was different, and it was the same place, but it just felt and looked different, and we looked different, and the children looked different, and this we were dressed differently, and you know, those experiences, as you know, Trey, are hard to describe. Some of these, they're just kind of they don't really have words for them, but they're real. And as I was experiencing this, Sheila was having an identical experience, and she looked at me and she said, "Oh my God, do you see what I'm seeing?" And so when we, it's such a gift to be able to have a multi-dimensional experience, a collapsing, if you will, of time and space. Really, is what occurred together. you know,
Yeah.
it was really remarkable. And when you looked at me, Sheila, and asked me, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" It was just so confirming, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm not going crazy here."
Well, you know, when you have these experiences with another and you can affirm them, you can confirm them. I was describing what I was seeing, and he was finishing my sentence because he was seeing the same thing. And it was extraordinary. And it was like a snapshot, maybe even a postcard of another time.
Mm.
And it was extraordinary. But to turn to somebody and say, "Are you seeing this?" is quite neat. It's like when you go on a trip together, go on a vacation together, and you see something, and you can say to the person you're with, "Are you seeing that?" Well, this was a multidimensional experience that we were having together, and it was quite extraordinary.
Sure. Now, with all of your psychic abilities, Marcus, do you ever win an argument?
Oh my God, no! Are you kidding me?
Oh, he
I
just lied. He
we
just lied.
well, let me put it this way: if I was
Your
if I was
nose is
pro,
growing now.
the Pinocchio movie, I think, is coming out soon. We'll have to
It's
go see
actually,
it.
yeah, I think it's out today. Actually, I think my daughter was itching to watch it, but that's so fascinating, right? Like you think about everyday dynamics and people with gifts like yours and people that are in your lives that are very close, right? Like Marcus, you're her husband, and then you go through
Yeah.
everyday life and you experience life on, at a human experience. It's like, I always wonder. It's like, I always think I'm like, my wife says things to me. I'm like, are you reading my mind? Because like you get on that
Yeah.
connection, you get on that wavelength, you're sharing consciousness. So I can only imagine what you guys experience.
We
Well,
call it the coconut,
it's really,
coconut telegraph.
I have on occasion said to him when I've told him something and he's questioning my information, I'll say, "Do you know what I do for a living?" I'll
Those are the
bring that
ones.
up.
Yeah. The coolest thing I think about our relationship, Trey, and this is something that we share just so that you're not to impress, but to inspire that these are possibilities within romantic relationships and other friend relationships or family relationships or just having psychic friends or people that you can collaborate with and experiment with. But we have such an openness to these experiences that we have had. We and they happen typically simultaneously, and they happen when you least expect it, because we have a perpetual intention and openness and receptivity to magic and to miracles happening. And we were at a dinner party not long after we met each other, and we were sitting with 6 people. Sheila and I were sitting on one side of the table, and our hosts were at one side, and a couple across from us. And we found ourselves floating outside of our bodies, maybe about 6, 8 feet above the table. And we looked at each other. It was like, oh, hi, what's going on here? And I mean, and she says to me, telepathically, do you think they know we're gone? And this, I don't know how long this lasted. And then we were back in our bodies. I mean, this kind of wonderful stuff happens. And a lot of people don't believe in it, but it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
When you've had that, it's like we were talking a little bit earlier about your personal experiences, when you have experiences that are your experiences, whether anybody else believes them or not, it just doesn't matter, does it?
Sure.
So we just stay open and receptive to having magic occur, and we've got a lot of fun stories about those kinds of things happening, and when they happen together, of course, when they're collaborative and they happen simultaneous, they're indisputable.
Yeah. Now I've always wondered, right? And you guys might be the best, you might be the experts at the authority on this, but like I've always wondered if there's a hierarchy or a hierarchy of like beings, right? Like source, God, ascended masters, archangels, angels. Have you ever gotten any information on that as far as the ranking, or if there is a ranking or anything like that?
We have. And Theo will tell us one is not greater than another. That we, in our human bodies, our souls are magnificent. And everything is spiritual because our soul is directing our lives in and out of body. So which I find lovely to hear, but Theo speaks of themselves as archangels, as direct mentors and teachers from source, God, force, however we want to speak of that all oneness. So, I've had in my upbringing and my mind and as a human having a human having the spiritual experience, but I think it's the other way around. It's my spiritual self having a human experience. That there's a tendency to think about it, but Theo does say we could think about them like in a corporate environment as being supervisors of the legions of angels that are here to assist us always. And so they're just there as management, I guess.
Don't write me up.
Yeah, you don't want a 90-day suspension from Theo. I can assure you that. I want to add one thing to that too. It's a great question, by the way, Trey. And I think that if you notice in the book, the theme is about loving the self. It's really the core relationship is with the self. And I think that is, your question is really interesting because we tend, as thinking of ourselves as mere humans, to be lesser than the angelic realms or to be lesser than the archangels or what have you. Theo is really, really, really clear that they, in fact, are not greater than us. And when Sheila was talking about our souls being so much bigger than our physical bodies, that's really what they're talking about. That as spiritual beings, we're all equal, none greater than the other, including the archangels. And so they're exalting us to know ourselves that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Love ourselves so deeply to remember who we really are. And one of the things I love about how Theo frames this is that at the core of their teachings on the process of soul integration, which is that path to loving the self deeply and permanently, is that any thought or belief that we hold about ourselves that is anything other than unconditionally loving just simply isn't true. And imagine living your life that way, where that any belief that you hold that's lesser than, not enough, not lovable enough, not blah 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 enoughness isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
Or that any fear or resistance or lack of trust that you hold that stems from a false belief isn't true. And this is what the process that we teach and work with all of our clients and those that come into our mentoring programs is simply to work through a spiritual process of identifying where beliefs are first formed and adopted, where they become part of who we think we are, and then we get the opportunity to completely repattern and shift those beliefs into loving empowered, confident, clear beliefs about who we really are. And that opens up doors to understanding who we are, what our purpose and passion really is in life, allowing us to move into work to all the things we've dreamt of becoming or creating or being or doing, we can do now because we don't have someone else's belief about us, talking in one ear, holding us back. So that's really the process that THEO's teaching is to move into that deep state of self-love, remembering who we are, so we can really live a life we love.
Awesome. So yeah, I think now would be a great time to bring in THEO. I would love to be able to share some questions with you, Marcus, as far as like from the book that you think are, that stand out from your memory as far as like impactful questions. I know I have a ton of it, but yeah, if you guys are ready, I would love to bring in THEO and dive into that, what we have ready.
Okay, well, it takes just a moment for me to invite THEO in. There is an accent and a bit of a voice change. So I just like to forewarn people that haven't had the experience before. And then they'll speak directly through me, as you will see. So it takes just a second. I'll be right back.
Great.
It is the beginning, is it not?
Welcome, THEO. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me and my audience this evening. Thank you.
We are appreciative of the opportunity to be of service unto you. You may ask.
My first question is related to source. Are we source incarnate? Are we just an aspect of that?
You are source incarnate. You're a vibration. Your soul is a high vibration that chooses to incarnate into the physical body, which is your earth suit, to navigate this planet, which is quite magnificent. And the learning herein is emotions. And you have this physicality that allows you to have all the sensories, perceptivities to experience those emotions in life itself and each other.
Why can't we accept that we're God incarnate?
For over time in the human experience, there have been these beliefs that have been adopted or created about yourselves that are untrue out of situations, circumstances, conditions, or opinions of others about you that you've accepted. That you are not that you are not lovable, you are not worthy. And even the teachings of being sinful or sinners or all of those terminologies that have a negative connotation about the human species. And so now is a shift of consciousness that's never happened before on this planet, a very refined energy that you're living in called the fifth dimension, that gives one the opportunity to begin to recognize the truth of what we speak.
I have a quick question, Trey. Speak to us about the impact of adopting a belief, typically from childhood, of original sin that we came in. You mentioned sin earlier. Somehow we came in as sinners. Talk to us about your perspective on that.
That's just an opinion. That's not God's voice speaking. God, source, is love itself, a solid state of unconditional love. It is from the human mind and intellect there have become these opinions to control the mass, if you would, for wanting more, whatever it is, more money, more power. Ultimately, it's power over others. So being told that you are lesser than, over time, there's a belief that is adopted about that. And there have been these beliefs that have been passed along for thousands of years, culturally, genetically. And so now is the time is breaking out of that mold. For if you all integrate and find the awareness that those beliefs that have been held have been simply untrue, and giving the self that unconditional love, one achieves that state within the self, that God self, if you would. And if you all did that in this world, you would have peace. Because what would love do? Love would treat each other appropriately, respectfully. For there's enough on this planet for everybody. But what you are being told, there is not. Yes, you must care for it, but it will be here longer than you will in this lifetime. But here, too, is another way of respecting your home. You've chosen to be here, to have a body, which is quite exquisite and magnificent. You may ask,
how do we get into that God state, that God consciousness? And what does that feel like?
peace. It's from the inside out. It's an inner process of loving the self enough, changing the beliefs of not being worthy to the recognition that you are more than your physical body, that you can be in that state of loving the self unconditionally. And it's not conceited, it's not narcissistic or self-absorbed. It's just a state of being, which is peaceful, being comfortable in your skin, no angst. That no matter what challenge comes up in your life, you have the ability to meet it and learn from it. For challenge is only the curriculum of your life. It does not need to define you. And what you do in the process of integration is change your perceptions to whatever challenges that affirm the beliefs of not enough. Those challenges have been gifts and blessings. So as you look for the gifts and blessings that those experiences have given you to be the person you are today, therein lies the awakening, the awareness that you are not a victim, that you've come to learn, and look how far you've come. But this time, having chosen this time to be in this physical body on this earth planet, for this transformation of consciousness of what we speak, look what has happened in your world in the last 100 years. You are now communicating globally with each other, seeing each other, knowing if there's a cataclysmic event somewhere in the world, in an instant you're there and you see it happening. And what's the first inclination? The first inclination is to assist, to be there for those in need. It matters not the color of the skin or the language spoken. The majority of the human species are collaborative and want to assist. And the others who do not, have the belief ingrained of not being enough, being victimized. But that is now going to change for the species overall in time. And you are a participant in that and a way shower of having the conversation we are having now.
What do you, when you see us, when you look at us, what do you see?
We see your magnificence. We see a divine being having a human experience. If you could see yourselves as we see you, there would be no discontent.
Yeah, and I want you to explain, please, the abilities that we are developing, that we are beginning to experience as we raise our vibrational frequencies in this fifth dimension that we're in right now. And I'd like you to share a little bit with us about what it means to be in the fifth dimension and what are our abilities within this frequency that we're living in now, to live multidimensionally.
The veils between your multidimensional experiences are very thin now. And the awarenesses of who you are of all time can be experienced and understood. That your soul is larger than your physical body. If you would extend your arms out, your fingertips out in the room that you are in, and breathe into it and exhale, you can feel your energy extend to the opposite walls of the room. You can feel the energy, its largeness, if you would. You've all experienced, all of you have, if someone stands too close to you, they're in your energetic soul field. And it's uncomfortable. If someone gets too close, do you not always step back? You may ask.
How do we communicate with that God part of ourselves?
Meditation.
Is there a right way or a preferred method?
Whatever is attractive to you. If you've ever daydreamed, you've meditated. It's natural. It's a natural state of being. So quieting the mind, you can use the breath, deep breathing, exhalation completely to calm the body, noticing the mind chatter, letting it float away from you, not holding on to it, but letting it dissipate like clouds do in the sky, and you can obtain that soul-centeredness. Understand, there are many forms of meditation. All are good. No one is better. It's the one you are using that's good for you.
How powerful are the I am affirmations in connecting with that God consciousness?
Very powerful. The I am is the God of you. If you notice when you introduce yourself, you say, I am. The God of you is speaking. So any time you use the I am in front of any statement, it empowers it 100-fold. For an example, if you say, I am sick, of course you're going to be sick because you're claiming it. The God of you is saying, this is me. But if you are saying, I am experiencing unwellness in this moment, an imbalance in this moment, it's just an experience you're having. You're not claiming it and holding on to it. You're learning from it and letting it go.
When we step more into that God consciousness and we stay there for longer amounts of time, how does our physical reality change?
ease and grace. It's as if you walk through an invisible barrier that has restricted you before to manifesting your dreams and desires, to the flow of life on your behalf. Everything aligns with you then. It is always working for you. The law of attraction is always working. It's like electricity, it surrounds you. But you are the conduit of the energy of decision that then the universal energies align with to make it so. So it's being careful how you speak and how you think. For you have what you have because of how you speak about yourself. You speak and how you think. So changing your thoughts, changing your perception, knowing you're worthy of all your dreams and desires being met, it will be so.
How does living in that consciousness change others' consciousness with it?
Each individual must have a willingness for that change. But when one's vibration changes, there's an increase that gives the opportunity of others to change as well.
How do we best, Theo, share our own personal experience in a loving and acceptable way with those that may be skeptics or perhaps not open to having their own experiences?
It's not conversion. In the asking, it is given. It's not a telling or a forcing. But it's not to convert them, but just sharing your experiences and not to overwhelm them as well. There's an enthusiasm when one is opening and having many experiences to give someone who's just asking for a sip of water, as many state, a fire hose. So give them the sip and let them ask for more. Be the example. Live your life in this way, and they will ask. They'll want to have what you're having.
You've mentioned before about going within to find our purpose. When I go within, I experience a void, a dark space that is outside of time. Is that where I find the answers?
It is, and listen. Acute listening is excellent in that space as well. But as you spoke of purpose, your life purpose is life itself. What you're looking for is how to express your energy passionately. And you know, there is a calling from within you in your soul that will draw you forth. And there's no missed opportunities. Trust that.
There's 12 of you speaking in one voice. Are there other councils out there that are similar to this?
Yes.
And I'm assuming there's just a large amount of numbers of those.
There are, and there are many opening to receiving that guidance. For this is what the timing of this 2022 is about. The fifth dimensionary energy is about this greater awareness and opening that all have connectivity to guidance that is ever present about them. And in the asking, it is given.
You know, when people start opening up to this, speak to overcoming the fear of the unknown.
It's by inviting it, asking, and then receiving. But the fears come from the beliefs, do they not? That something will take you over or do you harm. And that's untrue. Nothing, no one can do anything to you without your permission. You are a master being, powerful divine energy.
So do we need to say protections when we're in that meditative state to protect ourselves when we are connecting with the higher self?
We think not. However, in your humanness, it may give you comfort to do so.
Can you explain to people what the higher self is?
The higher self is the sum total of everything you've experienced in the soul. Some call it the Akashic records. And it's in you. Every cell of your body holds that vibrational frequency of all that you are now, all you've been, and all that you will be. Energy is constant, it is only form that will change.
So what's the difference between the soul and the higher self?
The soul is the higher self in its completeness. What you're asking about is a particular incarnation of consciousness in a particular time frame. The oversoul, if you would, is the one that holds all that knowledge. Your soul is a part of this experience now, but it's been before in your linear time, for there's no time, but there's multidimensional experiences. And so the oversoul has connection to all of it.
You talk about loving ourselves, right? How do we love ourselves unconditionally?
What you let go of is a belief that you're not worthy. You let go of shame of any experience you may have had. Know that all challenge, all experiences are but learning opportunities of the human experience. And when you begin to grasp that, then you can forgive yourself for any things that you may have believed about you that are untrue, or any experiences that you have harsh judgment of.
When you look at me, can you see my higher self?
We can see your totality, your whole soul self, yes. That's why we can say, if you could see yourself as we see you, you wouldn't be discontented. You would have no angst. You would know how powerful you are, and you would live as such. And many are off put by the word power. It doesn't need to think of overtaking someone else. When someone has a true sense of power, a soul-centeredness, if you would, there's no need to have power over another or a desire for it. For you see the collaboration of the human experience, a greater powerful energy.
I've been told that I've had Archangel Michael around me quite a bit. Do you see that?
Yes, he's quite busy. He's an overseer of the legions of angels that are with you at all times.
What about guardian angels? Are they with us all the time?
Yes.
And how many do we usually have?
There's one significant one, but no, there are many collectively that assist each and every person. There's billions of angels.
I've read in the book that you, Theo, as a collective, have never been or never lived or incarnated in a human life. Is there a reason behind that?
That's correct. We're as teachers and mentors and good observers of the human condition to be able to teach and mentor you in the human experience. For many have not had one before, and then there are those who have had many. But the earth is an exquisite experience. And it is a choice to incarnate. It's not demanded of you.
When we evolve in consciousness, do we merge back with the one source? Is that the end game? Is that what we're trying to do?
You're never separate from it. It's just a belief that you are. And that comes with not being worthy and all of the judgments that go along with that.
I just have one final question, Trey. Theo, talk to us about how life changes when we fully accept ourselves as the divine master beings that you're talking about.
So as you do this, we'll give you an analogy, for it's very simple. You have a thermostat in your home, your place of living or working, wherever you are. And you turn the thermostat up or down 1 or 2 degrees, it matters not. But however you change the thermostat, it changes your environment, doesn't it? It's powerful. Changing your perception is like that thermostat. And when you change these limiting beliefs to the knowing of who you are and that state of loving the self, it changes the trajectory of your life forever.
I can't thank you enough, Theo, for taking the time, or I don't know if there's time where you're at, but spending time here with us here in this reality.
We are appreciative of the opportunity to serve you. You are complete with your asking.
Yes.
God's love unto you. Good day. Hi, Trey.
You're welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome. Where do you go during that?
I just move. I move over. It's very difficult to have words to try to describe it. But I'm aware that they're speaking. I'm aware they're using my body, but I don't remember everything. And it's, I likened it one time to sitting in a movie theater, and I just get in the seat next to my body. and Theo just takes over. I can't describe it any more than that, really. It's a very comfortable place for me to be because I've been doing it so long, and I trust Theo implicitly. I've had enough years of being affirmed and confirmed of their messages that I trust whenever they speak. I learn just like everybody else. I'm a student.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do they ever come in like at weird times, like maybe with you're sleeping or something like that, or can you feel their presence?
In the beginning, or if there's something that I need to know or I've been asking for, they will come in. But they taught me early on that this is my life and this is my body, and that I'm just inviting them to work through my body. It's an invitation to them. And because they said, if it were not so, this is my lifetime. They should get their own body. So they taught me, schedule the time you will do this work. So I have a pretty robust schedule.
Sure.
But I love what I do, and I love working with Theo. But that's all in learning how to manage physically my body, because it looks pretty easy, but it's such a high frequency that goes through my body. I can only liken it to putting your finger in a 220 electrical socket. I mean, it's such a high frequency that they raised my frequency and my cells to blend with theirs. So there's been an upgrade that's been an ongoing process.
I have to
And
ask this
so,
question. I have to ask this question.
sure.
You ever play tricks on Marcus? Like act like Theo and say like make the bed, do the dishes, or something like that?
He'd know that I was not. It doesn't do those things. It would be funny to do that. Other people do it though.
Yeah.
They'll talk like Theo, and it's pretty funny. But no, I haven't. I just tell him directly when I
My wife is so lucky I'm not a channel because I would totally mess with her.
Yeah, she doesn't even, she's got me so well trained, Trey. I mean, she doesn't even have to ask, for particularly on the dish duty because,
knows.
she does the cooking, I do the cleaning, and it's a perfect marriage,
Awesome. That's awesome.
So, well, yeah.
I love you two. You guys are great.
Thank you.
Man, I could talk to you guys all night. How can people buy the book, The Art of Relationship, and where can they connect with you two?
Yeah, asktheo.com. Asktheo.com. Everything's there. We've got a lot of goodies for people. We're in pre-sale for the book right now, pre-launch. There's a lot of really great bonuses, including a big public event we're having here shortly for those that have pre-purchased the ebook and the paperback. But yeah, just go to asktheo.com, and we've got guided meditations and audio programs that we give for those that are entering into our community, want to engage with Theo a little bit deeper. Yeah, we're just we've got we have a monthly membership, a subscription that's really reasonably priced, so you can engage with hundreds of hours of Theo's teachings and videos and audios, and many mentoring programs, 3-month, 6-month, 12-month programs that we do that people can explore and see what resonates with them. But yeah, just come to asktheo.com. Love to meet you.
Marcus, Sheila, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you,
Trey,
Trey.
it's been wonderful being with you.